Goya will also create Saturn devouring one of his children. Now, as time progresses, Goya goes through a number of mental health issues, and we can't really be sure of what it is. Anyone who says that they are probably full of it. The problem is looking back and trying to diagnose someone based on their art. It's not something that we would ever accept today. We don't put in art and handwriting to psychologists today and say, here, use this as a basis of diagnosis. It simply doesn't happen. But we do know that he becomes increasingly depressed. He becomes increasingly manic at times. He creates these black paintings. And these are intended for his eyes only. They were never intended for public view, and they exist throughout his home at the time of his death. They're never sold, they're never displayed until after that death. Now, in this case, this is created for his enjoyment, or at least his expression only. It's highly personal. So what's happening here? Now, there's a story. Saturn devouring his children is a common story. In it, Saturn is sort of father of the Olympian gods. His wife, Gaia, will bring these children to him when they are born, and he simply swallows them because there is a old prophecy that basically says that one of his children will defeat him. So if he swallows them, it's not really an issue. And it's very clear in the story that he swallows them. That will be important later. Now, when you get to the fifth or sixth child, Gaia has caught on to what's going on. Why she didn't catch on after the second or third, I don't know. But after the fifth or sixth, she catches on, wraps up a rock and gives it to him, and he swallows it. And it's treated with a curse so that he eventually vomits up the original Olympian gods whole and adult. That's why it's important that he swallows them. So knowing that, we have this. And here, Saturn is definitely not swallowing that child. And by the way, it doesn't look like a child, looks an awful lot like a fully grown adult. By the way, for the purposes of this painting, you should keep in mind that Saturn is also known as Chronos, or time. So with that in mind, what are we looking at? Well, we're probably looking at the artist's despair at the passing of time. At the time, he's suffering from arthritis. He's got some form of mental health issue going on. And so as we look at the piece, we get a sense of what's happening. He can't trust his own mind, and you notice the head is gone. He has arthritis in one arm and probably developing it in the other, hence the missing arm and one that's already in the mouth about to be removed. And look at how Saturn is holding the body. These fingers seem as if they're going through the body, not just gently holding it like one does a delicious Jimmy John's sub. So what he's getting at is something deeper. The back is probably back pain, something that's going along with his aging. He's suffering from ill health, and we're seeing it through the piece. He feels as if time is tearing him apart and slowly degrading his physical state, which is what we're seeing here. This is an extremely emotional work. And the imagery, more than the style, place the work in the Romantic period because we're dealing with something, once again, nightmarish. We're dealing with the macabre, in this case, with death or impending death. And what makes this romantic is he is creating something in concrete visual terms that otherwise would be very difficult to get out. The idea that his body is falling apart. And you could imagine someone with an invisible illness, for example, where they have arthritis or pain or whatever the situation might be. And you see them for coffee one day and they look just fine. What you don't see is they go home and collapse because that is all the energy they could put out that day. And so the same applies to Goya. You can't see all the arthritis that he's going through. You can't see his mental health. But by painting it in Saturn devouring one of his children, he can put it in concrete, tangible terms. He can communicate it to us clearly, in a way that we've seen before with the nightmare, and in a way that we will see again when we get to surrealism.